After Griff Jiang's mistress got into a car accident, he insisted on bringing her home to take care of her. I didn't make a fuss and readily agreed. He looked touched. Our relationship is purely innocent. I just want to ensure she has food, clothing, and someone to attend to her for the rest of her life. Please don't overthink it. I didn't dare to overthink it. I just wanted to escape as soon as possible. In 7 days, I would die suddenly from overwork, on the day of my funeral. He married his mistress. I'm about to die. This truth consumed my rational mind the moment I was reborn, so when Griff Jiang got angry again and suggested bringing his mistress back to live with us, I stopped resisting, agreed, go pick her up quickly. In the face of life, everything else is trivial. At 55 years old, what else is there to hold on to? Now, I just want to survive. Griff Jiang was stunned, with a look of disbelief, after coming to his senses. He spoke somewhat awkwardly and stiffly. Ivy is already disabled, and now I'm the only one she can rely on. There's no other way. I nodded perfunctorily, fishing out the health insurance card from my bag. Let's go. You're coming with me. He widened his eyes as if he didn't recognize me. Just half an hour ago, I was acting like a shrew, stubbornly refusing to back down, making a scene. I couldn't be bothered to argue, so I just walked away, on the way to the hospital. Griff Jiang remained expressionless and silent the whole time, but through the rearview mirror, seeing him repeatedly rubbing his palms, I knew he was agitated. It's that indescribable joy of finally seeing a dream come true after hard-fought struggles, after 35 years of marriage. I understand the meaning behind every subtle gesture of his. With a self-deprecating smile, I drove into the hospital and headed straight to the emergency room after parking. Griff Jiang grabbed my arm and said urgently, "Wrong way. Ivy is in the inpatient ward." I sneered and flung the person away. "You go pick her up yourself. I'm about to die and want to check what's wrong with my body. I'm not that magnanimous to personally bring his mistress home." Coming to the hospital was just to get a full checkup. Griff Jiang looked me up and down, angrily scolding, "You just fainted suddenly because you were emotionally overwhelmed. You woke up after only 2 minutes. You're not sick at all. I thought you genuinely accepted Ivy, but I didn't expect you to deliberately curse yourself to make me feel guilty." I shook my head. "You're overthinking it. Don't worry, I won't stand in your way. In my previous life, I strongly opposed it. But ultimately to no avail. Now that I've already died once, it's time to suppress my emotional impulses and make the most rational choice. In this life, I've decided to let them have their way." I spent the whole day at the hospital, getting various scans done. Finally, the doctor concluded, apart from slightly high blood pressure, "There's nothing wrong. At your age, you need to pay attention to getting more rest." I let out a sigh of relief. Thankfully, it wasn't cancer. I was just worried there might be some hidden illness that could trigger other diseases. When I arrived home from the hospital, the sky was already pitch black. As soon as I opened the door, I heard bursts of laughter inside. The laughter stopped abruptly when they saw me. My daughter Jianglan stood up from the sofa, looking somewhat displeased. "Mom, where have you been? You knew Aunt Ivy was coming to stay, yet you didn't even prepare the room." I took a deep breath, barely managing to hold back from slapping her. After carrying her for 10 months and giving birth to this little comfort, she's now siding with another woman against me. All that suffering was for nothing. Seeing my silence, Ivy forced a bitter smile and wheeled her chair over. Ju, I'm the one causing you trouble. I'll leave now." Griff Jiang's expression instantly changed, pointing at me. He yelled, "Ivy has nowhere left to go. Can't you show some compassion?" Forcing her to leave. "Do you want her to die?" My face darkened. On our wedding anniversary, Griff Jiang and I had planned to go out for dinner, but he stood me up, because Ivy returned from abroad and wanted to meet him, unexpectedly. She was injured in a car accident on the way and ultimately had to undergo amputation. Griff Jiang felt deeply guilty, believing that he was the one who caused the tragedy to happen, because before getting in the car, Ivy had switched seats with him, and by a twist of fate, it saved him. Griff Jiang began trying to persuade me, wanting to bring her into our home and have me take care of her. But why should I? It's not like she's my savior. Why should I be her maid? I disagreed. And Griff Jiang gave me a cold shoulder. Today, We had another heated argument over this, and I was so angry that I fainted. When I woke up again, I found myself reborn. Not only did I know what would happen 7 days later, but I also remembered everything that occurred before my burial. Fine. I'll leave then, having lived most of my life, only to end up making room for someone else. How ridiculous. Approaching the bedroom, it was no surprise to see my clothes thrown on the floor. Quickly stuffing things into the suitcase, when standing up, the sight of the bright jasmine flowers and the brand new bedsheets by the bedside made my heart ache like a cat's scratch. Griff Jiang always claimed to have low emotional intelligence, lacking elaborate schemes and incapable of romance. But he remembered that Ivy loved only jasmine flowers. Some people are not incapable, but heartless. What are you throwing a tantrum about now? If you leave, who will take care of Ivy? Griff Jiang grabbed me and wouldn't let me go. Mom, both Dad and I have to work, while you're just staying at home with nothing to do, idle all day. You can cook at home and chat with Aunt Ivy while you're at it. It's really easy. My daughter looks at me as if I'm a child throwing a tantrum. In my past life, I compromised. I took on the responsibility of caring for Ivy, and in the end, I met a terrible fate. Now, I just want to live an easy life, since you love each other so much. Then take care of it yourselves. With that, she took out the divorce papers from her bag and threw them in Griff Jiang's face. Sign this, and you can even take care of each other in bed. No one will stop you from being so loving. Griff Jiang's face darkened instantly, suppressing his anger. He bent down to pick up the paper from the ground. At a glance, his expression turned to shock. Are you out of your mind? Not out of my mind, just trying to survive. Sudden death was caused by their torment. Ivy, at her age, still acts all fake and manipulative, wanting everything and more. Day in and day out, she complains openly and secretly, accusing me of mistreating her and not giving her food. Griff Jiang calls me an ungrateful wretch. He said, if it weren't for Ivy saving me, you might have become a widow. Can't you have a little conscience? I have no heart. My conscience was eaten by a dog. So, hurry up and get a divorce. Getting married is easy, but getting divorced is harder than the journey of Tang Sanzang to fetch the scriptures. Negotiations failed. I didn't lose heart either and just checked into a hotel. Serving others is never an option. First, keep yourself alive and live a long life. When I woke up at noon, the hotel front desk called to say someone was looking for me. Unsurprisingly, it was the father and daughter duo. Griff Jiang is a technical backbone at the factory and was rehired after retirement, continuing to contribute his energy to society. Meanwhile, his daughter is also busy with her job, swamped every day. Whenever I ask them to accompany me to the hospital, they always say they don't have time. They even tell me that although I'm old, I should keep up with the times and learn from the younger generation. What needs to be learned should be learned. And not always trouble others. It's a miracle that they both skipped work today. My daughter saw how furious I was. Mom, at your age, running away from home, aren't you afraid people will laugh at you? Let them laugh. Whatever, having lived under the scrutiny of others for a lifetime, it's time to break free from the shackles of convention and live according to one's own desires. I sat leisurely on the sofa, perfectly at ease, feeling a bit hungry. The waiter came in with the meal and arranged the dishes on the table. My daughter widened her eyes in disbelief. Mom, you're willing to eat something this good? I ignored her and focused on devouring the meal. Today, I ordered many delicacies I had longed to try but couldn't bring myself to spend money on before, such as Australian lobster. In the past, whenever my daughter and I wanted something or craved certain foods, no matter how expensive, we would grit our teeth and buy them. When it's my turn, I always tell myself in my heart not to be greedy or indulgent. I habitually sacrifice myself every time, and the father and daughter took it for granted. Looking back now, I truly feel it wasn't worth it. Now that I've satisfied my cravings, my happiness index is skyrocketing. From now on, I won't scrimp anymore. I'll spend when I need to. Before, the money wasn't spent, but the person ended up in the coffin, filled with regret. Esme Jew. It's just about looking after Ivy for a bit. Such a small matter. At your age, there's no need to make things so ugly. Griff Jiang's underlying message was that I was making a mountain out of a molehill. I sneered, either get a divorce or send Ivy away. Pick one. still trying to control me. Dream on, you bastard. Griff Jiang doesn't smoke, drink, or engage in domestic violence. He's known as a good husband and father among the neighbors. Yet, no one knows he never does any housework. Acting like a lord every day, every time he's asked to do something, it takes repeated requests and endless sweet talk. Even when he does, he drags his feet, always mopping with one hand, never wiping dry the water stains on the dish rack, always just one step short of finishing. I couldn't hold back and yelled at him, and soon there were rumors outside about my bad temper. He got all the good reputation, while I bore all the ill fame, toiling like an ox or horse all my life. Thinking I could endure it and it would pass, treating him merely as a co-parent for raising the child. But in the end, you hit me with such a heavy blow. Since it's unbearable, then there's no need to endure it anymore. Let's just break up. Don't go too far. Griff Jiang's shouting was deafening, making my eardrums ache. I frowned. Now that our daughter is grown and doesn't need care, and we don't have many days left to live, wouldn't it be better to spend the rest of our lives the way we want? When I was young, I lived according to my parents' wishes. After reaching adulthood, they are swept into marriage. After having children, even if they are estranged, they turn a blind eye and strive to maintain appearances. Social norms and prejudices act like an invisible dagger, confining many within a rigid framework. They live by the book, shackling themselves in habitual thinking. Having been reborn, I want to break free from the shackles and live as my true self. Mom, if you get divorced, where will that leave my dignity? People will laugh at me. I immediately retorted, what's your dignity worth? Don't take yourself too seriously. Why should we live our lives constrained by others' opinions and make ourselves miserable? I realized this truth too late. Fortunately, it's not too late to correct everything. After filling my stomach, I took a cup of tea and sat opposite Griff Jiang. He remained silent, saying nothing. I can only do ideological work. So I began to persuade him earnestly, after we divorce, you can completely do whatever you want, even be with Ivy. Griff Jiang slightly straightened his posture, his index finger tightly pressing against his thumb. I could tell he was somewhat tempted. Keep pushing with encouragement. For example, you always say you want to climb Mount Tai. Ivy definitely won't stop you. Despite joint pain, he still wants to act young and refuse to acknowledge aging. Let him dig his own grave. Turning good intentions into something ungrateful. Better to do less of that. I took the agreement out of my bag. Sign it. There's plenty more where that came from in the bag. I printed 20 copies, always ready to regain my freedom. The house is yours, the cash is mine. Neither of us got the short end of the stick. Griff Jiang stared at me blankly. He seemed to finally realize I wasn't putting on an act. I genuinely wanted a divorce. He actually hesitated a bit. Dad, Aunt Ivy is here. Just then, the door was suddenly pushed open. Looking at the two people at the door, my heart was filled with mixed emotions. Just now, my daughter answered a phone call, and I thought she left because something came up. But it turned out she went to pick someone up. The reason my daughter is so close to Ivy is because Griff Jiang secretly took her to meet Ivy every year without telling me. As they spent time together, she ended up opening her heart to Ivy and treating her like her own mother. 35 years of raising you, and instead of gratitude, all that's left is resentment. To say it doesn't hurt would be a lie. Moreover, she knows Ivy's identity all too well. Brother Jiang, because of me, your family is in discord. It's all my fault. Ivy looked guiltily at the agreement on the table. You should just send me back to America. Husband and son passed away one after another. The daughter-in-law took the child and disappeared without a trace, with no one to rely on. Should I return to America to become a beggar? What a clever retreat in order to advance. Dad, you promised to take care of Aunt Ivy. The daughter grew anxious. He turned and yelled at me. Mom, Aunt Ivy is such a good person. Why can't you tolerate her? You're too vicious. Trembling with anger, I slapped him across the face. If you care so much, then you take care of her, support her, and serve her like your own mother. Recalling the events of my past life felt like agony gnawing at my bones. Back then when taking care of Ivy, she repeatedly and deliberately smashed cups on the floor, cut her hands, burned holes in the sheets, and engaged in other such inhuman behaviors. In the end, They claimed it was me who harbored resentment. Hence the smashing and breaking of things, and even tormenting her. Yet the father and daughter pair were blind and foolish, believing every word she said. Not only was I physically exhausted, but mentally I was on the verge of suffocating from the breakdown. Do you want a divorce so badly that you'd push your daughter away too? Griff Jiang looked at you as if you were being foolish. I responded coldly, I want neither you nor her. Father and daughter both froze in shock. Facial expressions were completely out of control. Griff Jiang finally signed the document. As I walked out the door with all my luggage, the air itself felt liberating. My daughter grabbed my hand, looking somewhat panicked. Mom, can you leave me some money? I said expressionlessly. Adults should be self-reliant. If you want money, go ask your dad. Not only did she choose to side with Griff Jiang, but she also declared she would support Ivy in her old age, treating her like her own mother. After all, my heart isn't made of iron. It can still feel pain. Since I'm not welcome, why should I give money? It's not like I'm a masochist, staying at a 5-star hotel and safely making it through those 7 days. I finally breathed a sigh of relief. Indeed, cutting ties with toxic people is the best way to protect your life. In the following days, I searched everywhere for a place to rent. After the Lantern Festival, I found a 2-bedroom apartment that was move-in ready, close to the school. And in a sought-after school district. On the first day of school, I entered the campus to teach the students. I am a university professor who recently retired. The school had offered to rehire me to continue teaching, but I declined at the time. Now, I chose to return simply to pass the time. Staying at home doing nothing can actually make your mind rusty. Scrolling through your phone every day only leaves you feeling emptier, as it fails to provide a sense of purpose. Boredom acts like a harvester, draining everyone's energy and spirit. On my way home after class, I ran into an acquaintance, Xiao Wei. When she saw me, she rushed over in surprise, calling out, Aunt Ju. Her voice cracked with excitement. Xiao Wei was once a student I had sponsored. It all started when she posted on Xiaohonghong, saying she had lost both parents and, due to poverty, her brother and sister-in-law had no choice but to send her out to work, but she had excellent academic performance and a strong desire to study, yet didn't know what to do. After investigation, I found the situation to be true, so I started providing financial support from junior high school until she graduated from high school. Auntie Ju, I'll go get something. Wait for me a moment. After saying this, she dashed off like a gust of wind. When he came back, he was carrying a nylon bag. She was running so hard that she was covered in sweat. Her face flushed red. These are local specialties I brought from my hometown. I originally wanted to deliver them to your house. She handed them over with a somewhat embarrassed expression. I took it and opened it for a look, smiling. I love your cured meat and dried vegetables the most. Her eyes suddenly lit up, like the brightest stars hanging in the Milky Way, dazzling and radiant. Xiao Wei picked up the bag, offering to help carry it home. After I declined, she seemed a little disappointed, but she quickly perked up again. Auntie Ju, I'll head off then. See you tomorrow. After running a few steps, she turned back and waved at me, her steps as light as a cute little rabbit. I shook my head with a wry smile and carried the heavy things home. Exiting the elevator, I noticed Jiang Lan pacing impatiently by the door. After entering, she glanced at the nylon bag in the corner and pouted in dissatisfaction. Students these days don't even know how to give decent gifts. I didn't want to argue with her, so I just organized the cured meats and other items one by one. Jiang Lan didn't move, just sat on the sofa, looking utterly exhausted. Dad is sick, and Aunt Ivy has no one to take care of her. Since it's the weekend, Mom, could you go back and help me out for a couple of days? It didn't follow my intention at all. Using a commanding tone, I laughed in anger. I just couldn't understand how she could say that. Not going. Early this morning, you called saying you missed me. Turns out you just wanted me back to be a free nanny. Jiang Lan suddenly stood up. Mom, not only do I have to take care of Dad, but I also have to do laundry and cook for Aunt Ivy. I'm really exhausted. Can't you show me some compassion? When I was at home taking care of both of them, no one showed me any compassion. A live-in nanny costs around 10,000 yuan a month. I've dedicated decades to this family, Yet who remembers my sacrifices? I heard Griff Jiang quit his job to focus on taking care of Ivy at home. When I asked why they didn't hire a nanny, Jiang Lan rolled her eyes. Those paid for can't be sincere. I never got such treatment before, lying sick in bed alone with no one to care for me. The father and daughter still think I'm Superman with self-healing abilities. From now on, don't come to me for anything related to Ivy. I have nothing to do with her. Jiang Lan returned defeated, throwing down harsh words as she left. Don't come begging me when you get sick in the future. I didn't say a word. Truth be told, I had long stopped pinning any hopes on this daughter. I didn't make a point of telling people about my divorce. Seeing me always alone, some colleagues got curious, and I mentioned it casually. The news quickly spread throughout the entire school, and opinions were divided. Some said that getting divorced at such an age, what would the future hold? But others admired my courage and expressed their support. Whether they pitied me or took pleasure in my misfortune, I didn't care. You never know which will come first, tomorrow or an accident, so it's better to live in the present and leave the future to itself. Despite all the gossip, Xiao Wei still frequently appears around me. After learning about my divorce, she even started coming over more often to help with cleaning and keep me company. Everyone says she's trying to curry favor with me, hoping to gain some benefits. I just laughed it off when I heard it. I sponsored Xiao Wei for 6 years. When filling out her college application, she resolutely chose the university where I taught. When we met for the first time, her eyes welled up with tears as she said excitedly, "Auntie Ju, I can't repay you right now. I just want to stay close to you." She's a strong-willed girl. When she went to college, she absolutely refused my financial help and instead applied for a national student loan. She's actually very busy. I hardly have any free time. I used to work as a private tutor outside of school to earn some living expenses. Now, I work as a photographer for others. I heard that the works she posts online receive great feedback, and she has many followers, making her somewhat of a minor internet celebrity. I both admire and appreciate her. From rural areas to first-tier cities, getting into undergraduate studies relies not only on unwavering perseverance but also on an indomitable spirit. Time flies, and soon it's graduation season. I was just worrying about how to spend my summer vacation. Unexpectedly, Xiao Wei invited me to go on a trip together. I frowned upon hearing it. She seemed to sense my concern. Playfully leaning close to my ear, she whispered, "Auntie Ju, I have money. I promised you when I was little that I'd take you traveling." Back then, she would always call me on her sister-in-law's old phone and made all sorts of promises to me. I didn't take it seriously, but she seemed to keep it in mind. I agreed with Xiaowei that our first stop would be Yunnan. The night before departure, Jiang Lan suddenly came to me. Hesitantly, she said, "Mom, Housie says he wants to get married. What do you think we should do about this? Make your own decision. Just don't regret it." After my daughter got divorced, she went back to her ex-boyfriend against my wishes. Housie is a good-for-nothing, without a proper job, just a loser. But Jianglan is a hopeless romantic. Someone says a few sweet words, and she's ready to give them her heart without hesitation. Back then, I intervened once and chose a well-matched son-in-law for her, ensuring she had a grand wedding. Sadly, she couldn't forget her first love and ended up ruining her marriage. Now I simply don't want to bother anymore. Let her do as she pleases. She might only come to her senses completely after getting hurt, shedding blood, and hitting the wall head-on. Jianglan was stunned. Finding it hard to accept, she asked blankly, "Mom, you used to advise me before, why now?" I took a sip of water and didn't answer, but instead issued an order of dismissal. "If there's nothing else, you can leave." After years of nagging about the same topic, what more is there to say? If she's not tired of it, I certainly am. Jianglan suddenly darkened her expression, a cold smile curling at the corners of her lips. Aunt Ivy was right. You just don't want me to be happy. You don't want me to marry the one I love. Well, I will marry him. I clutched my chest, feeling as if I couldn't breathe. Go. Just go. Don't come back. I'll pretend I never had you. If this is how ungrateful you are, then it's time to cut ties. Who will you rely on when you're old without me? I'm your only family. That arrogant expression made my heart ache even more. Get out. After they left, my heart was still racing, and I felt very uncomfortable, my hands trembling. I dialed 120, then called Xiao Wei. I was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment, but thankfully, it was a close call. Xiao Wei leaned over my hospital bed, crying so hard she could barely catch her breath. She said, "Auntie Ju, let me move in with you. I'm really worried about you being alone." I feel both heartbroken and warmed. This incident has taught me a lesson. Everyone says raising children ensures support in old age, but if the children are unfilial, they come not to repay kindness, but to seek revenge. I had been raising it for half a month before Xiao Wei and I went to Yunnan. She took photos for me, enjoyed various delicacies, experienced local life, and even met many travel enthusiasts. Every day was filled with excitement, seeing how happy I was. Xiao Wei came running over cheerfully with her camera. "Auntie Ju, how about we move on to the next city? Look, we've gained more followers again. The fans are asking me to film more of you. They really love watching you." I looked at the comments section, feeling an indescribable mix of emotions. Ever since Xiao Wei posted the story of how we met online, everyone has been calling me Auntie Ju, the great benefactor. They say I lifted her up, helping her step onto a bigger stage and embark on a new life. Everyone is thanking me for my kindness. If it was me who pulled Xiao Wei out of the mud, but the one who deserves the most gratitude should be herself. If it weren't for the awards plastered all over the mud walls, if it weren't for the deep longing in her eyes, I probably wouldn't have sponsored her. After all, no one's money comes easily. Where there is effort, there should be reward. Although I never expected to gain anything from her, the original intention was simply to add another female force to society. Next stop, Wuzhen. I've wanted to go to this place for so long, but unfortunately, no one would come with me. Xiao Wei nodded with a grin. I thought for a moment and asked her, "Are you sure we don't need to pay?" It's a bit embarrassing to say, but up until now, we haven't spent a single cent. Xiao Wei said that after the story and pictures were posted, they went viral online. Businesses chased after them to offer deals, eagerly paying for advertisements to ride the wave of popularity. Money kept coming in every day, so there was no need to worry about running out of cash. You just focus on enjoying yourself. I'll cover all your food and lodging, and even share the profits with you later. Xiao Wei affectionately wrapped her arm around mine, laughing freely. The bright sunlight spilled over her face, making her exceptionally beautiful. Compared to her timid self from 10 years ago, she was practically a different person. I sighed inwardly, shaking my head with a smile. No need to give me money. I have my pension, savings, and don't lack for anything. Just as I was enjoying myself outside, completely immersed in the fun, my ex-husband called. He sounded somewhat displeased. "Our daughter is getting married. You should come back for the wedding." Without a second thought, I refused outright. Half a month ago, Jiang Lan called to ask me for money. She didn't hold back. "Mom, I need at least 300,000 for the wedding." I hung up the phone directly. I gave her face. During my first marriage, I gave 400,000. Now in the second marriage, she still wants to take advantage. After the divorce, I never heard a single word of concern from her, only knowing how to take but not to give. No one will indulge such a selfish person, even if she is my daughter. I traveled everywhere with Xiao Wei and never went back to teaching. This is the best of times. Every day we happily toured around, uploaded photos and videos online, inserted some ads, and the money just came in, unlike before, when we worked diligently and saved money bit by bit. The benefits brought by the internet not only sustained us but also allowed me to meet people from all walks of life. I also experienced many projects I had never tried before, and most importantly, it broadened my horizons. As the new year approached, I finally returned home. The next day, however, my ex-husband came knocking at my door. He looked me up and down with a complicated expression. "Since leaving me, not only have you been doing better, but your life has also become more vibrant." I smiled without saying a word. After being hospitalized due to Jianglan's provocation, I immediately blocked all contact with both the father and daughter. When they found out, they could only call me using someone else's phone. Griff Jiang must have come across me online. After all, I'm somewhat of a minor internet celebrity now, and many relatives and friends know about it. leaning against the door. I told him to stop dawdling and get straight to the point. Griff Jiang has changed a lot. He hunched his back as if carrying a mountain on his shoulders. His clothes hung loosely on his frame, empty and gaunt, like a withered stalk. His face looked a full decade older, a world apart from his former self. It seemed life had not been kind to him. Your daughter is sick. Go see her. I don't want to, even after half a year has passed. I still can't forget the agony of nearing death. At that time, I was gasping for breath and collapsed on the sofa. Yet she turned a blind eye. Now whether she's doing well or not has nothing to do with me. I wasn't going. But Griff Jiang insisted on arguing with me about it. He just wouldn't leave. I got so annoyed that I had no choice but to go to the hospital. Jiang Lan saw me and burst into tears. She rolled up her sleeves, revealing bruised skin. Mom, Housie is a monster, apart from her face, which remained unharmed. Her entire body was covered in injuries. A horrifying sight. He not only abused me at home but also gambled, swindling all my money away. Now I have nothing left. As she spoke, she began to wail uncontrollably again. Mom, I really regret it so much. If I had listened to you back then, I wouldn't have been pinned to the ground and beaten. After hearing her tearful account, I remained silent. Griff Jiang had previously told me the whole story from beginning to end. After the young couple got married, they enjoyed a period of sweet and harmonious life. But the good times didn't last long. One day, debt collectors came to their door, saying Housie owed a lot of money. Housie's gambling habit was then exposed. Jiang Lan questioned him, and at first, he coaxed her with sweet words. Later, he simply stopped pretending, revealing his true nature. He would hit her whenever he was displeased. Their relationship grew increasingly tense, and the violence escalated. Upon hearing this, I couldn't help but sneer. A person can pretend for a while, but not for a lifetime. Once the deception succeeds, all fear vanishes, and the pretense is completely abandoned. Jiang Lan could have avoided stepping into this trap. It's a pity she didn't heed my advice, leading to such an outcome. I don't feel the slightest bit of sympathy for her. Instead, I want to yell out, "Serves you right." Wait until Jiang Lan's emotions stabilize, without wasting words. I got straight to the point with my advice. You should get a divorce. She stared at me blankly, hesitating slightly. Mom, I'm pregnant. Just get rid of it. A short pain is better than a long one. A child born into a family like this won't be happy. A useless mom, a gambling dad, a broken home. Starting life on hell mode, just the thought of it makes my scalp tingle. I want to keep this child. Hearing this, I stopped trying to persuade her. I knew she wasn't willing to give up. Unwilling to accept that the final choice was wrong, she still tried to use the child to soften a heartless man. Although most men in this world are inherently selfish, bound by morality, they have their limits. However, expecting a gambler and a playboy to turn over a new leaf is undoubtedly a fantasy. As she reached the door, she bumped into Griff Jiang pushing Ivy inside. Ivy glanced at me with a flicker of displeasure in her eyes. She forced a fake smile. Jiang Lan is such a willful child, after marriage, who goes back to their parents' home every day. Sister Ju, you really should talk some sense into her. I ignored her and turned to glare at my ex-husband. Your daughter was beaten like this. Why didn't you call the police? Griff Jiang stammered. She doesn't live properly, causing trouble every day, making the family restless. Ivy said family scandals shouldn't be made public, so we couldn't call the police. I looked at the father and daughter, speechless. If I hadn't kept the matter under wraps, Jiang Lan's reputation would have been ruined long ago. She took 200,000 from brother Jiang and spent every day fooling around with Housie. Neither of them worked. Just living off their savings. It wasn't until they ran out of money that the trouble started. How old is she already? Still trying to mooch off her parents. No matter how much money the family has, it won't be enough for her to squander. Ivy spoke sarcastically, her face full of disdain. Upon hearing this, Jiang Lan exploded with anger. She jumped off the bed and started cursing. How come my dad's money can't be given to me? You do nothing all day, just spread your legs and fake a few tears. And my dad showers you with cash. What kind of trash are you anyway? I was stunned. They had been as close as mother and daughter before, so how did they end up fighting like mortal enemies now? It's only been half a year, but people and events have developed beyond my imagination. Ivy was so angry she nearly fainted. With tears in her eyes, she tilted her head at a 45-degree angle and cried out pitifully, "Brother Jiang." The lingering tone of her voice was so heart-melting it could resonate through the rafters. Jiang Lan pointed at her nose and scolded, "At your age, still calling out so disgustingly. If you love acting so much, why not enter the entertainment industry and star in a drama titled The CEO Falls for My Stepmother?" As soon as these words were spoken, everyone present fell silent. Jiang Lan's outrageous remarks made the atmosphere unbearably awkward. Griff Jiang led the people to evacuate urgently. I didn't leave, wanting to watch the drama unfold, so I asked Jiang Lan what had happened recently and why she was at odds with Ivy. She sighed and began to explain the reasons behind it. It turned out that when Jiang Lan couldn't get money from me, she went to pester her ex-husband. Griff Jiang originally planned to sell the 4-bedroom apartment and buy a 2-bedroom one, so he could give her half of the leftover money, but Ivy suddenly intervened and adamantly refused. She said there's no daughter who keeps taking money from her parents' home, and given her behavior, they couldn't count on her for support in their old age anyway. Griff Jiang took the advice and didn't insist further. In the end, they barely managed to scrape together $200,000 for the dowry. The bride's family had no money, and the groom's family was even poorer. The wedding was so shabby that people gossiped about it for a long time. "Mom, every time I go back to my parents' home, she gives me the cold shoulder and keeps whispering in Dad's ear." Jiang Lan started crying again as she spoke, sobbing intermittently. "They say that with a stepmother comes a stepfather, and they were absolutely right. I must have been blind back then to treat her like my own mother." I sighed. Every effect has its cause. One can't blame others. I didn't say anything more, just told her to focus on recovering from her injuries. She couldn't bear to abort the child, yet couldn't stand on her own feet. No one could help her. After resting at home for a day, I originally planned to go out and buy some New Year's goods, but ended up not going. Jiang Lan arrived. As soon as she entered, she knelt before me, wailing like a ghost and howling like a wolf. "Mom, I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. Please save me." No sooner had she spoken than footsteps sounded behind her. Looking up, I saw my so-called good son-in-law, Housie. With a cheeky grin and a fawning tone, he said, "Mom, you're looking younger every day." Jiang Lan hid behind me in terror, sobbing, "Mom, he tied me up and tortured me." Couples fight at the head of the bed and make up at the foot. Right, Mom? Isn't that how it goes? That look of a dead pig isn't afraid of boiling water is infuriating to see. I really don't want to deal with this trashy mess, but if we don't solve it today, no one will have peace. Without another word, I immediately took out my phone and called the police. Housie panicked. "Mom, we were just fooling around. I couldn't be bothered to argue with him. Anyway, the police station was right downstairs. That was one of the reasons we bought this place. Personal safety was guaranteed." Officer Hat arrived quickly. After hearing the whole story, he took the guy away immediately and told us to come by later to give our statements. I turned to Jiang Lan and said, "If you don't want to stay with him, go straight to the hospital to get your injuries examined and obtain a medical report, gather all the evidence, and then file for divorce." She nearly cried herself unconscious. "I've had enough. I want a divorce." Her disheveled hair clung to her bruised face, making her look utterly wretched. "Mom, I'm sorry. I was so foolish. I never should have divorced Qin Shun in the first place." Her palm was tightly gripped by her, and regret nearly overwhelmed her. I withdrew my hand, looking at her fractured fingers, not wanting to say a word. Qin Shun was the son-in-law I had carefully chosen. Once my student, he was 8 out of 10 in looks. A college graduate, from a good family, and knew how to conduct himself appropriately. After catching Jiang Lan cheating, he didn't make a scene. Instead, he knelt before me and said remorsefully, "Teacher, I'm sorry. I can't give your daughter the happiness she wants." When it came to divorce, Jiang Lan wanted to divide the assets, but I stopped her. As the one at fault, how could she have the nerve to take what belongs to others? I was determined to find a family of equal social standing for my daughter. This way, not only would both families have similar backgrounds and education levels, but their values would also align. ensuring the young couple's future would be stable and long-lasting. Unfortunately, Jiang Lan didn't appreciate this. Her marriage of downward compatibility did not bring her the happiness she imagined. Instead, it left her utterly devastated. But all of this was what she deserved. I recommended a highly skilled divorce lawyer to Jiang Lan. I wasn't involved in what happened afterward. By the time everything was settled, a month had already passed. Housie was sentenced to 1 year of hard labor for the crime of abuse. After this incident, Jiang Lan completely woke up and decided not to remarry. She wanted to move in with me, but I refused. I haven't lost my memory. Those wounds still linger in my mind, never forgotten. There were still 2 days left until New Year's Eve when Xiao Wei suddenly arrived. She came with her elder brother, sister-in-law, and their 5-year-old twin sons, bringing a pile of gifts to the door. Xiao Wei grinned and said, "Auntie Ju, we're celebrating the new year at your place this year, and next year we'll go to mine. More people means more fun. You won't kick us out, will you?" The family of 5 put on pitiful expressions, all pretending to be helpless. I am infinitely willing and moved. On this important day of reunion, they traveled thousands of miles, all for me. They made me truly believe human nature is inherently good. On the 29th, we went shopping in a grand procession. Arriving at the entrance of the women's clothing section in the mall, I noticed a heated argument. As I got closer, I never expected to see my ex-husband and his family of 3. At that moment, Ivy looked rather disheveled. Her wheelchair had toppled to the side, and she had fallen to the ground. Yet no one offered to help her up, just because Griff Jiang and his daughter were having an argument. After listening for a while, I realized Ivy wanted to buy a coat worth 5,000 yuan. Jiang Lan refused. She jumped up, pointing at Ivy on the ground, and said, "Have you no shame? A little flower like you dares to wear such expensive clothes." Griff Jiang's face turned red, and he remained silent. Faced with everyone's pointing and whispering, Ivy buried her face in her chest in embarrassment. I didn't step forward to greet them, but instead decided to buy clothes at another store. But sharp-eyed Jiang Lan grabbed me by the arm. She was seething with anger. "Mom, you've never even worn clothes this expensive. What right does she have to wear them?" I just smiled. To be honest, my ex-husband was quite stingy. Even without Jiang Lan stopping him, he wouldn't have agreed to spend so much money on a piece of clothing. Otherwise, why would he just stand there, letting his daughter jump around, willingly losing face without saying a word? In truth, no matter how devoted a man is, he will eventually grow tired of a woman after being with her for too long. It's like enjoying apples. Eating them every day makes you occasionally crave a change of taste, not to mention, at his age, needing someone to wait on him every day. No matter how perfect the first love was, reality will inevitably shatter it. Without exception, I entered the clothing store, tried on some clothes, and picked out a few that I liked. At checkout, Jiang Lan pushed forward. "Mom, let me buy this for you." When she saw the bill, she was instantly speechless. Stammering, she said, "Mom, you really don't hold back. Spending money on yourself should never be stingy. Now, a single piece of clothing costs me tens of thousands, especially since I'm financially well off now." Xiao Wei repaid the money I had funded her for 6 years and even gave me a substantial share of the profits. When scanning the code to pay, the shop owner smiled and waved his hand. "Your little girl already paid." Xiao Wei looked pitiful and nudged me. "I've wanted Aunt Ju to be my mom for a long time. Can you give me a chance to prove myself?" My brother and sister-in-law standing beside me nodded repeatedly, saying things like their family was unworthy of such an honor. The twin dolls suddenly clung to my legs, looking up at me with their adorable little faces. "All the other kids have grandmas. I want a grandma too." Tears streamed down my face. I smiled through my tears. The onlookers, including Griff Jiang, watched the scene with complex expressions. In the face of life, everything else is trivial. Unfortunately, Jiang Lan called out weakly, "Mom." I ignored her and instead took Xiao Wei's hand. My gaze tender. "Whatever you want, Mom will buy it for you." "Wow, I'm so happy. Now I'll have a mother to care for me too." Excited screams pierced through the sky. They crowded around me as we entered another store, all vowing to pay for my purchases. I took off my old clothes, as if discarding past burdens, and put on one exquisite outfit after another, ready to embrace a new chapter. In this life, I have restarted my journey. Happiness blooms into beautiful flowers in my heart, and my future adventure has only just begun.